Rite Aid battling those pesky opioid lawsuits. Its sales are down and it is filing bankruptcy. What's that mean to you as the consumer? If you buy all your stuff at Rite Aid or you get your prescriptions there, what does this actually mean? Let's get into it. Here we go. Pharmacy chain, one of the country's largest, faces more than 1,000 lawsuits that say it filled illegal prescriptions for painkillers. Did they? Wow. Yeah. I mean, Rite Aid not doing well. Rite Aid, one of the largest pharmacy chains in the United States, filed for bankruptcy on Sunday, weighed down by billions of dollars in debt. Some of the numbers associated with Rite Aid here are fairly shocking. They've got declining sales and more than 1,000 federal, state, and local lawsuits claiming it filled thousands of illegal prescriptions for painkillers. That's the big killer, right? Because no matter how much money you make, when you've got these massive outstanding judgments, it's like, okay, we can pay a little bit of that, but we don't have the incoming sales to support all this. What are we going to do? Well, I guess we do what we can and file bankruptcy. And this market has had such pressure from big players and then also Amazon and then Walmart kind of getting into the whole, let's do the prescription type deal because there's money in that. You see a lot of these big pharmacy chains are shutting down stores or whatever and going to a pharmacy only type model. The company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in New Jersey. Its largest creditors, including the pharmaceutical company McKesson Corporation and the insurer Humana Health. The pharmacy has raised $3.4 billion to fund its operations while it's in bankruptcy. So kind of a interim loan there, during which it expects to continue to operate its stores and serve its customers as it keeps going. So this is a reorganization on outstanding debt, which is significant. The company also appointed a new chief executive, Jeffrey Stein, to lead its restructuring. Mr. Stein is the founder of Stein Advisors, a financial advisory, whatever. Elizabeth Bird's been serving as Rite Aid temporary chief executive since January. So you've got a company that's in turmoil, but we've known it's been in turmoil for a while. It's just that the environment and the business model that Rite Aid has right now, it's not going in the right direction. Rite Aid is one of many drugstore chains dealing with lawsuits stemming from the deadly abuse of opioids in the United States. In March, the Justice Department filed a complaint against Rite Aid and its various subsidiaries, asserting that the company filled prescriptions for excessive quantities of opioids that had obvious and often multiple red flags indicating misuse. Yes, I think they are partly to blame, but I mean, this is a big pharma deal. This is the doctors involved. This is everybody in this chain. Hey, let's get them hooked on this stuff that we know is highly addictive, and we'll just see how that goes. Hey, wait a minute. You're the pharmacy that filled the prescription. You're the one all to blame for this. Company has denied these claims. It's not our fault. We are merely filling a prescription. Rite Aid, which has more than 45,000 employees, has struggled in recent years to compete against larger peers like CVS and Walgreens Boots Alliance, as well as Amazon. Deteriorating sales left the company with less money to invest in its business and more difficulty in paying back its debt. It's the standard struggling business, right? Unless you got massive cash reserves and then you just blow through that. And then at some point in time, you get to that point where you got less money to invest and, it's not going the right direction for you. As of June, according to company filings, it had $3.3 billion in debt, not counting the pending opioid litigation. Not good. And wait till you hear what their market valuation is. I can tell you it does not start with a B. It starts with an M. So Rite Aid stock has fallen nearly 80% since the start of the year. That array of problems has created just the kind of perfect storm, said Sarah Foss, the global head of legal and restructuring at the financial services company. I think Chapter 11 is really the only option for somebody like a Rite Aid to get all of this settled. On a basic level, what bankruptcy does is allows you to settle it all in one forum, just one happy event taking place, right? It allows the bankruptcy judge to make decisions on, all right, yeah, this is good. This isn't good. All right, keep that. No, you can't discharge that. Goes down on that route, right? Just stand your bankruptcy stuff, but on a much greater scale, because this was at one time $1 billion company. It is now no longer close. Rite Aid has closed several stores in recent months and has been preparing to close hundreds more. The shrinking of the company has made it even harder to compete because they don't have the ability, like the bigger stores, to compete on that level because they're not selling as much stuff. They're not buying as much stuff from their suppliers. The whole model just, and now they've got this debt load that they don't have the income to feed. So they're just bleeding out money. They're going to take another $3 billion in debt on to get them through this bankruptcy. And then they see if they can emerge on the other side. Lighter debt load. All right. Can we operate with this? Can we make a go of this? We're going to have to sell off all this stuff, sell off any other affiliate businesses and see if this makes sense. Oftentimes it does not. Because they close so many stores, if you happen to need something, you might not necessarily have a Rite Aid next to you. So you're going to go to a competitor. Or you've just got it kind of in your mind that, Rite Aid really isn't an option and they seem to be so shaky. Why would I go there? I'm just going to start going to this store here. Rite Aid bought out locally here Bartell's drugstore, which is a family-owned drugstore in the Puget Sound region for I don't know how many years. But I was a big Bartell's fan. And then when Rite Aid bought them, it just kind of went sideways and new ownership and new direction. And it's just not the same. So I now go to a Walgreens, and Walgreens is not I don't like any of them anymore. Right. I just used to have like your local neighborhood drugstore, just a no-go. It's all these big chains have come in. So you're going to go to a competitor, said Chedley Lewis, a vice president at Moody's Investor Service who follows Rite Aid. So there's another reason why you've got weakness, talking about their ability to compete in a marketplace filled with some pretty strong big competitors, and they are losing market share. Mr. Stein, the company's new head, said his focus will be to steer the company through the bankruptcy process when it'll be able to trim some debt and get that discharged by Mr. Judge, close some stores, and deal with the opioid litigation. Mr. Stein said he hoped to help the chain reach its full potential as a modern neighborhood pharmacy. That sounds optimistic given their current situation, right? Rite Aid's bankruptcy filing is a dramatic fall for what interesting cut, and let's go with the bankruptcy filing is a dramatic fall for what was once the biggest drugstore chain in the United States. In 1998, Rite Aid's market value was nearly, get this, $13 billion. It closed on Friday with a market value of less than $40 million. Massive, just stock devaluation, right? And this has been ongoing for a long time. And we hear this about companies, and then it gets to this, and everybody's, I am so shocked. No, nobody's shocked here. I think anybody who's been following this has recognized that is not going in the right direction, and it hasn't been for a long, long time. You see stores closing. We're going to have to close about this many stores. Company has not been well managed for a very long time. On top of the fact that they were a little bit weaker than some of their competitors when the whole opioid deal came out. So, you've got a combination of factors here that have driven a big company from 13 billion with a B down to 40 million with an M. They've been stuck in the perpetual inability to improve their fortune. Business not going the right way. You might say, well, it's because they don't have a model that's competitive in today's environment. Okay. But you've got other big companies that are doing okay, that are figuring it out. They're just run a little bit differently, right? Rite Aid said on Sunday that it was working on a potential deal to sell Elixir, the pharmacy benefit manager it bought for $2 billion in 2015, to MedImpact. Any deal will be subject to approval by a bankruptcy judge. So they are getting rid of what they can. They're jettisoning the, flotsam? what's that saying? Whatever. You just, the ship's going down. So you got to get rid of all the stuff to keep it from being heavy, make it more buoyant. So the ship stays afloat. This one, it's going to take a bankruptcy judge to go, yep, all that debt, whoosh, gone. Pharmacy benefit managers, often referred to as PBMs in the industry, act as intermediaries on behalf of employers and health insurance plans, performing services like negotiating discounts on drugs. Elixir has been a challenge for Rite Aid because its smaller scale has put it at a disadvantage when negotiating for large contracts that could generate more cash. CVS Caremark, Cygnus Express Scripts, and United Health Group's Optum Rx are the three biggest pharmacy benefit managers, processing about 80% of all prescription claims in the United States. So these are the ones that actually process. You've got all these intermediary type companies that are in place, and these are the ones that actually handle the prescriptions. So many people with a piece of the pie in the prescription medications. It's just a massive, massive business. Everybody's on something, right? Everybody's on some form of something. It would have been different if they would have been able to grow that business, grow that PBM, Ms. Lewis said. Maybe, but what if that business was just, it's not, I don't know the ins and outs of that business. What if that's just not the right fit? What if that's just wildly inferior product? Rite Aid is doing what it can to stay afloat, but that's not looking good. In recent years, Rite Aid has been shuttering stores to keep pace with declining sales. And then they end up selling less. They're cutting, their ability to sell. Fewer stores, fewer sales. It's just that, it's that doom loop. Yeah, but it's a business doom loop. It now has 2,000 locations in 17 states. CVS Pharmacy, on the other hand, has more than 9,500 stores and Walgreens around 8,700. So CVS and Walgreens, they're fairly close. Rite Aid, 2,000 locations. They are now a bit player. And they used to be just a massive company in this space. So you can see it just doesn't take that long for when things go, wildly south for a company. And they were impacted heavily by the opioid lawsuit, but some of these other companies were as well, right? Everybody was in on that whole deal. Let's get them all hooked and we'll see where this goes. Now they're selling for pennies on the street. Rite Aid shrank its store base significantly after a failed merger with Walgreens in 2017. So we talk about that and talk about moving. They had 3 distribution centers for $5.18 billion. You've had a bunch of things that haven't worked out with Rite Aid. They paid down some debt, the opioid crisis. We kind of go into a brief breakdown of that. Rite Aid later tried to merge with grocery store chain Albertsons, but the deal was called off in 2018 after it lost support from Rite Aid shareholders. We've had a couple of different sales like that of Rite Aid that didn't go through. During the pandemic, Rite Aid initially benefited from a sales boom as people stocked up on hand sanitizers and cleaning and beauty products. It sped up technological offerings, opened smaller format stores aimed at addressing pharmacy needs, and said it was focusing on winning over more millennial and Generation X customers because they are your next customers in line to age gracefully, at least Generation X is, that's me. And, be solid customers. Where do you get your medication? Oh, Rite Aid, of course. Rite Aid saw its earnings rise and losses narrow for a brief time because the whole pandemic. But as the pandemic wore on, customers started consolidating their trips to drugstores, cutting into Rite Aid's opportunities to capture impulse purchases. That's what I feel with drugstores. I feel like so much of it is, I don't really need that, but I'm going to get it anyway because I'm here. And I mean, you don't have that same opportunity with cool stuff like you do at the grocery store. At least I don't think so. A food product, that's really cool. But, here's that 10-in-1 tool. It's got a curling iron, a lighter. Oh, it's got a wrench and, whatever it is that's at Rite Aid that you don't need. kind of part of the deal, right? Social distancing protocols led to a less severe cold and flu season during the first winter of the pandemic, resulting in a big drop in the company's cough, cold, and flu business. So now we're talking about very recent things that have impacted their sales. That one's an interesting one to me because, hey, it was a very mild flu season. Who'd that impact? Well, whatever company it was that it was selling the cough, cold, and flu medication, Rite Aid. We just didn't realize how evaporated that business actually would be. Hayward Donegan, Rite Aid's chief executive at the time, said in an interview on CNBC in 2021, as earnings eroded, the debt load became heavier. It's all about the cash flow, Ms. Lewis at Moody said. I mean, correct. That is true. But you could say that about any business. John, it's all about cash flow. If you don't have the cash flow, then you can't pay your bills. Something as a real estate owner, company owner, right now I am painfully aware of. Things are not going well in the real estate world, in the real estate entities, because you've got, especially in the appraisal end, nobody is refinancing because they're sitting on a 4% mortgage or, 3.5%, 4%, 4.5%. If you're sitting on a 5%, just talking with an office manager, even if you're sitting on a 6% mortgage, you're not going to probably do anything because you refinance into a 7.5% mortgage. That doesn't make any sense. And there's, the numbers of people out there buying are not great either. So both Summit and Reynolds and Klein, it's not been a good run. We are on an 18-month run of downturn. And I think all of 2024 is not going to be a great market either. Survive till 25 is what I've been told. And that's what I'm throwing out there. If you're in real estate and you've got a big consolidation because people were, going so hard with real estate during all those years. Then all of a sudden, oh, hey, yeah, that's not really working out. You got a lot of real estate agents that will literally just, no, don't want to do my license again. Not going to renew it. Then they'll get out of the business. The mortgage brokers have gotten out long ago. Those folks, that's always kind of the first in the line to go is mortgage brokers. Talk about, because they took both the purchase business and the refinance business like appraisals do, but mortgage brokers make a percentage of the loan. Appraisers, we make a flat fee, different scale of operation. So not great things in the real estate world, kind of like it's all about cash flow. Yep, get that. But this is not my first rodeo either. I've been doing this for years and years, and you get through it. And sometimes you take a little haircut and sometimes you just about go under. Yeah, but you can always figure out a way to get through it. So hopefully this isn't the one, right? The slowdown, survive till 25. In June, Rite Aid reported revenue of $5.7 billion for its most recent quarter, down from $6 billion a year earlier, driven partly by continued challenges in selling merchandise like food, beauty items, and household goods. Consumers are increasingly turning to Amazon, the corner store, and elsewhere to buy those goods. What we don't have here is there statistically, the shoplifting issue is not enough to even bring up in this article. It is happening. Yes, it is happening in droves, but its significance to the bottom line, we're not hearing about it. This would have been a top item if it was, and we're not even close, not even there. Does that have an impact? Yes, it does. But I think more specifically, it has an impact on which stores to close because you're going to be closing a bunch anyway. So like Target here in Seattle, Portland, San Fran, they're going to get rid of the ones that have the most liability from a safety standpoint. Boom, done. So Rite Aid closing a whole bunch of stores. If you've got other factors, and I talk about that all the time, if there are other extenuating factors going on, hey, you've got some 911 calls that are problematic, closed. And we don't hear corporate talking about that, but Target did say we're closing these stores down due to safety issues, due to shoplifting and safety issues of the employees, management, anybody that goes into the customers, anybody that goes into the store and shops in that environment. Closing her down if things aren't looking good. The company began in 1962 as Thrift D Discount Center in Scranton, Pennsylvania. The chain changed its name to Rite Aid in 1968. That became a publicly traded company that year. Its founder and chief executive, 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗢𝗥 helped expand the company and its stores quickly over the next decade, expanding west of Michigan, Ohio, and along the Gulf Coast and West Coast. For a time, Rite Aid was the nation's largest drugstore chain and the largest within New York City. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Rite Aid was embroiled in a securities and accounting fraud case. We talk about that. But here's the opioid crisis. Pharmaceutical manufacturers have also filed for bankruptcy amid litigation fights over their role in the opioid crisis. In August, the opioid manufacturer 𝗪𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗪 Pharmaceuticals filed for bankruptcy for a second time in 3 years. I had somebody ask me, is that possible? Yeah, I guess if you get the right judge. It's personal bankruptcy, where you've once every 7 years, something like that. Can't remember what that is. Any which way you look at it, it's not good. But you can't just go making a habit of, I need to clear my debts. Let's do a little banco. Let's go banco here. Last year, it had promised to pay $1.7 million. This is 𝗪𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗪 Pharmaceuticals. And if I'm mispronouncing that, probably am. It promised to pay $1.7 billion, but after making one payment, uno, and missing a second one this June, it devised a plan with its creditors to cancel a majority of the $1.25 billion that the company still owed under the original settlement agreement. In exchange, 𝗪𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗪 paid $250 million ahead of its second bankruptcy. They're just working their way out of obligations that are out there. So, you've got the slumping sales, but on top of that, I think the opioid stuff, the payouts they've had to make on those have been immense. They've been immense. But you've also got a business that is being pressured. Some of the things that I see in the pharmacy world, not enough pharmacists, right? And that's not unique to Rite Aid. It's not unique to Rite Aid. It is any pharmacy you go into. And the one that I go into that I see is Walgreens. And I've talked about this openly. I think it was maybe a month ago I was in there, not at the pharmacy, but I was buying something else. And the line for the pharmacy was like 12 people deep, 14 people deep, something like that. And it did not move in the amount of time where I was in there. And this was like an afternoon, weekday afternoon. So I asked the person at the checkout, hey, what's going on here? And there's always just like one person at the checkout too. Drugstores drive me crazy because they don't have self-checkout. At least the ones I go to don't have self-checkout. You got to go through somebody, and they have so few employees, and they just don't have enough people in the pharmacy either to handle all these requests for, everybody's medication. So it's just this long, arduous process. And then half the stuff in my Bellevue pharmacy is under lock and key. You got to go get somebody to, open it up for you. Do you need some help? Yes, I do. I need that over there, that there, and that there. And so what I end up doing is I have that in the back of my head that is my experience. I just buy this stuff on Amazon. I whip out my phone, shopping, tee it up, and have it sent to me later that afternoon on some stuff. Some stuff you got to wait a little bit, and I'm willing to do that. So this is part of what's causing Rite Aid's misery is they've had a sequence of events happen that have gone south on them. And then they're also in an environment. If they're in an environment where they're killing it, say like real estate, through the pandemic, just crushing it. Now we're not. If they had that, then they could, afford to cover these payments, their outstanding obligations that they have, work their way through some heartache, whatever that might be, so that they remain one of the few pharmacies at the end of the day that's a big national chain. But right now, you've literally got CVS and Walgreens. That's about all you've got. You've got a bunch of other players that it's my understanding are looking to get into that space, and specifically just the prescription filling and selling of that type of stuff. You've got Walmart is already there, right? So you've got a handful of other big chain stores that are looking to get into that space because looking forward, hey, all this other stuff we're not making huge money on that, and we don't want to have the exposure of shoplifting and all that stuff. Let's go to just the prescription, go to the pharmacy type environment. And you're seeing that on these stores that are closing. All right, main store closing. We're going to keep open the pharmacy, or we're moving the pharmacy here because we need less space. That is the profitable part of the equation. And so Rite Aid, will it make it through? I think it goes through bankruptcy and somebody picks it up on the other end, right? I mean, I just don't see this. I don't see them turning it around because the mess that they're in, is it going to lighten a bunch of debt for them to be able to come out and operate cleanly and get new leadership? Oftentimes when you see this, in my opinion, gotta remember, I'm a real estate guy, and I follow some business, but it's more kind of on the big macro level. That doesn't seem to be going well. I don't see Rite Aid being around long-term. I think it gets absorbed by somebody else. They've already tried to sell it how many times? Multiple times. And they've got a balance sheet that's a little bit upside down. They have how much in debt? $3 billion. That's worth $40 million. Okay. All right. But Sean, there's hope. I mean, if you can just hold it together long term, they'll be able to work their way out of it. I don't know. I don't think so. I think Rite Aid is absolutely hosed. And I know other people think that as well. So CVS and Walgreens, enjoy. So I think this is not a shocking deal. And if you shop at Rite Aid, just like the Targets we see when they close down, all right, yeah, go to this one. So then you're going to have to get used to your new pharmacy, wherever that is. But hopefully you've got more than one pharmacy in your community. You're not in other communities where they're shutting stuff down, where there is a pharmacy desert. We do see that as well too. But oftentimes that has to do with, other situations way beyond Rite Aid closing down due to a bankruptcy. So there you go. That is it. Rite Aid filing for bankruptcy, but they're going to keep going. They've got some interim financing. They'll keep floating along, see if they can do something on the other end, because they're a big enough brand where somebody's going to take a run at them, see if they can't, resurrect what's left and see what happens moving forward. Somebody's willing to risk some big numbers to make that happen, and we'll just see where it goes. But as far as the immediacy, no, you're not going to lose your Rite Aid, but know that it's in flux and you might want to be looking for someplace else to get those prescriptions filled and get those, curling irons. I always see those, fingernail clippers, toenail clippers, all that stuff. And then some ice cream. What else can you get at the drugstore? Yeah, it's always this random batteries, lots of batteries. Used to be able to do film. You can do processing. You do that. I know you can do that at is that Walgreens? No, that's Bartell's. They have the full film kiosk. Don't have that a lot anymore, right? Now you can go in and upload things via Bluetooth to print out your photos. And who prints out photos anymore? You just upload them to the Insta, right? Do it for the gram, or you upload them to Facebook. I think some people are still using Facebook. Is anybody? Oh, a lot of you guys are. I'm on Instagram. Check out, I did the pro-Palestinian rally last weekend, and then I did a mashup with that and Guns and Effin' Roses at Climate Pledge Arena. So during the day, I went to a pro-Palestinian rally. I live streamed that. And then at night, I had lunch and dinner in between. And, and then I went to Guns N' Roses, 25th row. It was epic. So there's a video of that on, I think my reel on Instagram, Sean Reynolds 68, if you care. All right. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. We'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.